Hi everyone, my name is Shiveshwar Gunasekaran. I'm 21 years old as of 2026, and today we're going to be talking about my theory topic that I've came up with after watching a few movies, watching a few research videos, making my own research, and also asking the ever complex, weirdly complex questions of where did we originate from? Where did we come from? Who were we before? Maybe touching in topics of also how we de-evolutionized what is next for us, and basically who and how we were and how did we become who we are right now. Okay, so I'm going to be touching on topics, some sensitive topics some might find weird or ununderstandable. So if you have any questions, anything you want to, maybe you want to debunk my theory. I guess this is a theory. I'm not solidifying it, saying this is the truth and nothing but the truth. This is just a theory that I've came up with after my own research, after I asked my own questions. Also, if you see me sweating anytime throughout this video, I apologize because I had to turn off the fan and the AC so that noises don't disturb us. Okay. Now, when I ask myself the question of I did my notes, my research. When I ask myself the question of who are we, where did we come from, and obviously we had a few theories. We had Charles Darwin theory. We have religion saying religion and ancient texts saying how humans actually came from. We have many religions saying many new things, many different things, and everyone has their own idea of how we came from. Okay, but this is my theory on how we came from and how we have reached the state that we are now compared to how we were before. That is my topic for today. We are aliens. Yes, you heard that right. I'm not trying to stir any confusion with the ongoing, alien heat, but we are aliens. Now, before I go into deep into that, I just want you all to think for a bit. We as human beings, as a whole, okay, human beings, we are very. This is human, so we biologically and chemically we are very complex, we are very different from the other creatures that exist in this world. That's one point. And also, if you want to look at points such as the Charles Darwin theory, or you want to look at religion, we have many sort of theories, stories on how we actually came on, as in like the first descendants. Now, I'm going to debunk the Charles Darwin theory. I wouldn't say debunk because his theory also wasn't really complete in a way. Okay, his theory was also hanging by I wouldn't say by a thread, but it was not really complete because his claims required something like human fossils which he couldn't find. So therefore, his theory became like a theory that most people will lean on that seemed more logical. Okay, our evolution began from ape-like beings, monkeys, basically chimpanzees and all that. Our evolution began from them, and many people, when they ask the question why did evolution stop, they don't have such a straightforward answer from it. Their claims are like, oh, it's just humans that looked like monkeys. It's not really, it's not really monkeys to be said exact. It's just people that look like monkeys. Okay, and if you ask the question where did they come from, they don't really have a straightforward answer. You can Google it, you can see it. Okay, and now religion. Again, before I go any further, I want to say that I'm not debunking saying religion is a myth. I feel like it's something that we should all believe on, believe in God, because that's what really unites people in a way, in faith and belief. Okay, religion has many approach to how we came to Earth. How we were brought into this planet. Obviously, we have the Christianity that believed in Adam and Eve, Jesus and everyone, all that. Islam believes also they have their own version of Adam and Eve, Adam and Hawa. And then also they have some claims which I spoke to some older folks that said they came from the ground, we came from the ground. Hinduism said that we are actually spiritual forms of God. We are descendants of God. We're the spiritual beings of God. Okay? And obviously, we have other stories. Now, my question is, if beings like those exist, where did they go? Obviously, they're God. Okay, if they once exist, we had places like really advanced, powerful civilizations. Like the Greek. I like to use the Greeks as an example. Okay, the Greek gods. Zeus, Poseidon, Athena, all these Greek gods. Like we once had these powerful beings in our planet that walked among us and were basically living in this planet, you know and my question is, where did they all go? Like, where did it all stop? Where was it like the end chapter for that, and then the continuity, which is humanity that we know? Now let me jump into my theory and why I think that we are in fact aliens, now that I have answered these questions, between these two. Since that we are aliens, not us, we are obviously we are earthlings, we were born on earth, so we are earthlings. I'm talking about the first descendants. So my theory suggested that we came from this group of alien-like beings, and I'm not talking about like, obviously you always picture aliens to have like really large craniums, big head and everything, a big brain, weirdly structured bodies. That could be aliens. I'm saying that we could have evolved from them. Maybe the aliens that came to Earth looked a bit different, looked more Neanderthal like, looked more like Homo sapien like, like how we depicted humans before to look like. Or we could look like aliens like how you see in the movies. Okay, and I'll get to that and how we look different to them. Okay, one of the topics being, my topics being the first descendants that came to the planet, how we learned about the planet, how we divide into colonies and civilizations, how we look different, how we have de-evolved. I'm going to look into some of the scientific theories made by scientists like Amy Eskridge, David Wilcock. So now let me look at the first. So obviously we had really advanced beings and we are descendants from them. Okay, this is the theory, is we actually came to this planet. We invaded this country because, this planet. Let's look into the history of this planet completely, how the Earth was formed. Obviously supernova explosions. And if you take a look at the history of creatures that have existed in our planet, it all started with an era where, I'm going to be using normal terms here, I won't be using any scientific or physics-based term, because I want this to be, people should understand this, okay? Before the era of dinosaurs, most people thought the era of dinosaurs was the first era. Before the era of dinosaurs, there were the era of insects. The oxygen content in the earth was so high, Earth had really large scale trees. Insects that we know now, they are small in size, were massive. We had cockroaches the size of school buses during that era. Really large insects during the era due to high oxygen content. As you all know, high oxygen content results in these insects or creatures that breathe with a different respiratory system. They get to grow larger in scale. And then after a wipeout, meaning a catastrophic event, that's when they evolved. After the Earth went into like a remodeling phase, and then later they evolved into what we know as dinosaurs. They lived in the land, and then obviously asteroid came. Asteroid destroyed everything, wiped out the entire thing, and the Earth had another remodeling in a sense. Now after all that, it's kind of surprising to think that where did we actually come from? If the said asteroid destroyed everything. Some people say it didn't destroy the most of the things, it just wiped out maybe 80% of the whole world's population. Okay, so back then the land was full of sea creatures that soared up in the sky, and creatures that walked on land. Everything creatures. And my claim also that this planet was only full of animals and other creatures that are not human, that if you look back at every single excavation, every single discovering fossils, discovering anything, if you were to go to Antarctica and dig up at the center of any iceberg, you will find only animal remains. If you dig up some part of the ocean, you'll only discover animals. And if you were to dig up the ground, you will find mostly animal remains. If you find human remains, it's mostly from a few hundred years back. Okay, it's not like, it doesn't really add up or scale up to how, the timeline of Earth when Earth was being formed. Now, some might be arguing, oh, what is your proof in terms of saying that aliens did exist? Obviously, one, I touched on the no fossil evidence of humans that really correlate to the timeline of how Earth was formed. And also, one more thing which surprises me, we actually came from space and we invaded Earth, we colonized Earth. And also, if you were to ask yourself the question, like, if you were to look throughout history, every single UFO sightings, every single UFO mystery, everything UFO related, everything began from where? Everything began from Earth itself. There weren't a single discovery saying, oh, NASA found a large spaceship coming from space that broke through our atmosphere and is heading to America to study. No. Everything came from Earth itself. And if I'm not mistaken, 2 years ago, there was an article that they released saying aliens actually came from our ocean, which might beg the questions. That's why we didn't discover our ocean fully. We stopped halfway. Because if we have the technology to investigate stars that are millions of light years ahead of us, why do we have the technology to discover stuff that are in Earth itself? Maybe that's true. Aliens did come from the ocean. Okay, that's where they are from. And everything alien related that actually happened throughout history. Everything happened in Earth. From Earth, there's no such thing as a spaceship entered Earth and are studying humans. No such thing like that. And throughout every single scientific exploration ever done in space, nothing has ever came back saying, oh, they found life in other planets. They've discovered signals. Yes, they discovered radio frequencies, different radio frequencies, yes, but all that has been debunked as natural space occurring occurrences, like maybe a star dying or wave of energy that are being transferred through solar system, and all of it hasn't been really linked to life outside of Earth. Also, if you look at certain ancient religious texts, ancient religious paintings, writings, carvings, statues, whatever, everything shows these beings. Like example, the pharaohs who look really alien-like. I'll use them as the most alien-like beings, okay? And certain texts or paintings that they have in the pyramids really shows that they were asking something from beings that appeared from the sky in flying saucer-like ships that are helping them and giving them things that they want. Even some Indian scriptures also showed something like that, okay? And I believe other religious scriptures, there's something mentioned relating to alien stuff. Now, next question, which is my next point, how we learned about the planet, and I'll also correlate with the third point, which is how did we divide into colonization and how did we divide in colonies and also civilization, and how we look so different. So 3 points in one go. So I believe when we came to Earth, we of course didn't come in one or two beings, okay? When I mean by descendants, we're descended by huge colonies, okay? Huge colonies that came to Earth, and I will touch on where did we come from, okay? I'll touch on where did we come from. It could be that, okay, we are descendants from a large colony that came to Earth. I'll touch on where did we come from, how did we come from. This is just a theory. This is like, I also watch a lot of movies. I like to imagine stuff. So, okay, yeah, this is just theory, okay? So we came from a different planet. Maybe that planet was like Earth. Maybe that planet was like Earth, and that planet also was slowly dying, but they managed to grow a certain number of colonies only. Okay, maybe they managed to grow a certain number of colonies only, certain number of people. Okay, not that much of population like how we have right now, 8 billion people. Maybe it was just like a few hundreds, maybe a few thousands, maybe. They came on what? A spaceship that was so advanced because we are highly intellectual and advanced beings. I'll touch on that based off Amy Eskridge's theory. So we came to Earth, we discovered Earth as a planet which is very habitable, full of natural resources. Basically the perfect 10 out of 10 planet for life to begin in. So we came, we colonized, we invaded. Since we came in this large colony, and Earth is very big. So if you want to study one by one as groups, you can't. So obviously my theory is this large colony is split into a few, and they went to each part of the Earth, which now we know as a northern, southern, eastern, western, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere. northwest, east, west. We went to each part of this earth and we studied. We had people studying these parts of earth. So how do we look different correlates to that? Because earth is known for having a really cold region, a really hot region, a region that is known to really have more nights than more darker days than more brighter days. So as these colonies went to really investigate, really study that area, obviously they need to set themselves there, and they obviously grew their civilization there. That's how we have people, like we have people from different countries, different regions, people that look different, because when these colonies separate, they each go to each different paths. Okay, I'm going to use an example of how this group of colonies went to a more hotter part of earth. That way, as their coming generation from these colonies, their body have to adapt to the temperature, the surroundings. So that's how they look different. Maybe they have a darker skin complexion. Maybe their bodies would adapt to heat more, because they have naturally they have more fat. Their growth, some of them might have been shorter, some of them might have been taller. All of that is based on how much they adapt in the region of where they are going to go study. They adapt to that surrounding. This colony adapt to that surrounding. That's why we look different. That's why we look different. Even right now, if you look at people who are known to be living in a hotter area, like South America, India, wherever, you see them, majority of them, they have darker skin complexion. Okay, that's just how it is. Darker skin complexion is because the melatonin protects you from sunlight, because your body is being adapted to that scenario. That's an example. So that's my theory on how we actually learned about the plants. We went through ages. Another point is we went through ages, which is like the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, the Medieval Era. This it's something like Minecraft. You come into Minecraft, you discover wood, and then you discover stone, and then you discover iron. You went through these steps like a video game. You went through these stages to study. Each colony, they studied their own. This colony studied about the stone era, and then they discovered maybe their area had spice. This colony studied, and then they discovered gold. Natural elements. So they studied. They went through these ages. They went through these eras by using stone, then using iron. They learned more and more as the years went on. This came from the first descendants that came, the first group of people that came. Now, as they grew, as they progressed further and further into the future, that's how they discovered all this new stuff about Earth, about the planet that they've colonized, something new. So yeah, that's basically my theory on how we actually start to look different if we came from one species. Maybe our descendants had big eyes and a big head, but as we spread away from, it's clearly obvious. If you look at some parts of the world, we have people with strange head structures still, alien-like head structures still. So I believe this is how we started. We came from alien descendants that came to Earth. We in colonies, we studied Earth, we survived, we went from ages to ages, Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Ages, or whatever, medieval, Paleolithic era, Mesolithic era, the Mesopotamians, all that. We went through all that, we learned more, and we created a systematic structure, hierarchy structure, because the more they expand the population, the more people there are. So of course you need someone to control the large number of people. That's how they created this hierarchy system of people, and that's the system that we carry forward up until now. Okay, adding people in classes and everything, categorizing people. I think it got more drastic compared to how it was before. So yeah, I think that is basically how it is, and again, now I'm going to touch in the topic of religion. Again, this is a pretty sensitive topic. I don't mean to offend anyone. This is a theory of mine. I myself, I believe in religion. I believe in God. But this theory is sort of like maybe an eye-opening, something that you can talk amongst your friends, theorize yourself, because I would love to hear some of your questions. Maybe I'll do follow-up videos, so drop them in the comments. I feel like as they progress, as these people split into civilizations, they had this really powerful higher being set as their leader. We had the Cleopatras, the Zeus, the Poseidons, people that had really powerful beings, people that they've claimed to be God. And to be followers of these people, they set the standard of religion as like a thing that you can set to control people in a way. not, I would say control, like really categorize them. Or usually we went from, oh, whatever person you are, oh, he's a person from the Egyptian lands, he's the person from the Greek lands, he's the person from, the Indian lands, so you categorize them, and also they create this structure which is religion. And yeah, then people start splitting into groups of these religions and everything, and that's a topic for another discussion. That's like the head theory, the base to set for it. Okay, and that's when they came up with this, you can say, tales on how maybe back then there's someone that asked the question, where did we come from? So that's when they came up with these tales of how their own idea of how the people came to Earth. So this is also, before one more thing, the Amy Eskridge theory. Amy Eskridge was one of the 13 scientists that went missing, including David Wilcock, who went missing after their theories about aliens and alien life, on how we could have been aliens and how we are aliens, have been publicly, released in files or social media or whatever. Amy Eskridge theory, this is a fun thing, I'm going out of topic a bit. Amy Eskridge theory explains that, about P52s and P47s. P52, P stands for present or population. 52 stands for 52,000 years into the future. P47, present population. P47 meaning 47,000 years into the future. Now you might be asking yourself the question, if they are from the future, how does that mean that we are aliens that are detected from the past and the present? Good question. Now, this all could be related to an interstellar movie theory, and how the future, I'll make a video on Interstellar explaining the best I can. So in the movie Interstellar, we are known that this wormhole, the black hole, the fourth dimension, is placed by the future beings, the beings that Dr. Brand colonized in Edmund's planet, and all that stuff. So if Amy Eskridge's theory was true, which is also a bit really not so. I mean, if you want to compare my theory, I'd say it doesn't really match, because how can the future depict the past and the future and the present to really reach the inevitable future? So I believe Amy Eskridge's theory is saying that the P52s, P47s are like theories that they are descendants from us. They are like the beings from us. If you look at the pictures, the P47s, P52s, they look something like the first descendants that I say. So yeah, I think I'll just end it right there, because I don't want to go any more further. Don't want to go out of topic, because I speak about this, I will go like really far. Okay, if you want to say how we have de-evolved in a way, I can say that humans are being more and more controlled, silenced in a way, limiting in terms of thinking and speech in a way. Like, of course, 13 scientists went missing for talking about this. So that being said, this is just a theory of mine. I will not go missing or whatever, so just a disclaimer. This is just a theory. If I ever go missing, just know I'm not, I don't hate myself, I love myself. So if I don't suddenly end, it's not that. Okay, so yeah, so that's my theory on saying that we are in fact aliens, and we came from a line of descendant of really supernaturally great, powerful, intellectual beings. And as we progress, we sort of de-evolved because of the structural system that was created as the descendants more and more they came along the way. And we are seeing more proof of aliens being existed in Earth rather than outside of Earth. So that's more of a comprehensible truth, solidifying my theory, stating that why aliens actually came from a different planet, colonized Earth, and that we are actually aliens that invaded this planet. Okay, there are more galaxies in outer space than grains of sand in Earth. Let that sink in. So maybe in our galaxy we are the aliens. Maybe in different galaxies there are different aliens. We may never know. So even in our galaxy, the universe is ever expanding. The universe is ever expanding more and more, and there are more galaxies than grains of sand in Earth. And in each galaxy, there's hundreds, millions of stars yet to be explored. We haven't even finished exploring our own galaxy. So I believe there are other beings out there, and we are one of those aliens. We are descendants from them. We are earthlings. We are earthlings. I'm not an alien. Okay, even if I'm incredibly smart, nah, I won't be classified as an alien. Okay, so yeah, we are also beings who share some of the most, really great mental and physical extraordinaries in life. So yeah, in conclusion, we are aliens. This is my theory saying that we are aliens. We are descended from aliens in our galaxy. We are the aliens that have invaded Earth and have made Earth our home. And as of now, as NASA is trying to discover other planets that they can go and repopulate and colonize, sorry, not repopulate, sorry, colonize and invade, like how they're planning to do it in Mars, how they're planning to do it with other planets, the Kepler planets, the Alpha Centauris, the Proxima Centauris, the moon, and all discovering all these other planets that they could possibly colonize soon. This is just an example of what we did before. Maybe we saw Earth as the perfect candidate and we colonized Earth. And now we're looking for other planets to colonize. And a not so distant future, that's how, if we manage to find a planet which is Earth 2.0, this is Earth now, Earth is dying. Let's say in the future, if they find a super Earth, where humans can go, when humans go in their little rocket ship, go to that planet, and they start there, then they will have tales to tell on how humans came to that Earth. And in a few million years, when there's a little kid asking, how did we came to this planet? And then there will be stories to tell. So that's my theory on how we are aliens, we invaded the planet, and we are soon going to continue to colonize other planets, because that's what aliens do. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Again, if you have any questions, if you have anything else you want to know, any theories that you want to share, any interesting theories you have for yourself, drop them in the comments and I will read every single one of them, and I'll make follow-up videos regarding it, because I love space, I love talking about space. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next theory. Bye bye.